Hello, we're Illusion Filmworks.
Hi.
I'm Zach,
I'm Kennon.
and this is another episode of I've Seen That Movie Too. You'll notice one little part of the group's missing, but we love Mark. He's got some stuff to do today. Before we start, we want to give a quick shout out to our friends at John Tyler Community College. They have a really great theater program. They've been gracious enough to let us use our space for all our episodes.
Their space, not our space. We didn't buy it.
What? We went here for a number of years. Okay.
We have history with them, but they're great. They allow us to use their spaces for filming whenever we need them. But with that being said, let's go ahead and launch into the episode.
So this week we have two movies, What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Rain Man, both movies about the challenges of having to deal with a family member who's got mental problems,
Well,
mental
not only
disorders.
that, but like in both stories, the families were kind of broken too.
Yeah, like it's more. Well, we'll get right to it. I was gonna. So, without further ado, we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna see who picked what, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Cool. So it seems like we kind of agreed.
So, What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Rain Man? I think the big reason that I liked What's Eating Gilbert Grape more than Rain Man is that all the characters were not only more relatable, but they were a lot more fleshed out. Like, each character got their own, like, little mini arcs almost. You got Gilbert having to deal with not just his brother, but also with the woman he's sleeping with his new girlfriend. That sort of arc, even kind of the arc with his mom, like, because he was so hard on his mom, like, he was such a fat, douche.
Right.
So, and then he sort of, like, gradually comes to not accepting that she's big, but sort of, like, accepting that that's a part of life, I guess, maybe?
I think it was more like she accepted that Gilbert needed to move on with his life.
Yeah,
and like she knew, like she knew she needed to do something. That ending kind of was confusing for me, like her final arc. You know what I mean, so to speak.
Kind of.
Because I get where they were going with it, where it was like she was attempting to move on by going back upstairs. Didn't quite work out for her, but it did help. But that's the thing. It did help with the kids finally to go off on their own and build their own lives at that point. But that's also like why I chose What's Eating Gilbert Grape over Rain Man, because like we were talking about earlier, Rain Man is very linear. Like it's they're straight point A to point B and everything that happens in between. But with What's Eating Gilbert Grape, it was really all about the characters, how they interacted with each other. And the idea of it's a small town and they want to leave it, and there really isn't much anything to do in the small town. They don't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, all they got is Burger Barn and the annual migration of the campers. Like, I'm sorry, that just made me laugh so hard the first time I saw it. I was like, and they were talking about, we watched the campers come across the road every year, and I was like, are they watching like the Discovery Channel or something like that? You got these migration of the campers going through. I don't know. That just felt so funny to me. But I think the big thing that put a damper on Rain Man for me was just how completely and utterly unlikable Tom Cruise's character is. Because he really learns nothing. And the fact that they try to make you think he learned something I felt like was more of an insult, because he starts off with, I'm basically going to kidnap and hold my brother hostage, my mentally challenged brother hostage for all this money. And they go on a road trip and he's supposed to learn lessons, but all he does is gets him to count cards for him. He gets him to do this for him. He gets him to do this for him. And then towards the end, he's sort of like, no, I think I want my brother to live with me and I want to be closer to him. It's like, no, you've done nothing to demonstrate that you've learned any lessons.
It was very convenient that he had a change of heart and he wanted to. I mean, like, he was still selfish. He still wanted to keep the brother, even though his brother was going to be better off at the institution. I forget what it was called, like Waldorf's or something like that. I can't remember. But that is his whole character, which is kind of, I mean, that's the downside to it too, is that you can use one word to describe his character, which is selfish. But again, with What's Eating Gilbert Grape, like, you can't really use one word to define their characters, because they're all selfish, but they're also all like sad and depressed, and they have hopes and dreams, and it's that idea they want to get out of a small town.
True.
And go live life and go focus on other things, but they're kept at home because of their mother and because of their brother.
I think maybe you could describe that scenario in one word, and that would be isolated, both physically and mentally from the outside world, but also having to feel like you have to stay close to this town.
Right.
He sort of has duty to his family. He's got all this. He also kind of sort of has duty to his boss too, and a little bit. Like he doesn't actually, but he kind of gets this sort of like mentality of, well, if it wasn't for you and the one customer, I wouldn't have anybody. And Foodland's just taking all my business, and I guess I'm gonna.
Which you were talking about, you liked the scene earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was I laughed. One of the funniest parts of what you eating Gilbert Grape is when he goes and gets the cake from Foodland because they've dropped the first cake. He just walks out with a big Foodland cake, and his boss is sitting in the parking lot and just gives him the most not like angry, but just like, why? Like, sort of like an et tu Brute sort of look on his face. Yeah. It was like, if you hate Foodland so much, what are you doing at Foodland? Do you regularly go to Foodland just to like go, sit in the parking lot and just go like, Foodland? Yeah. But in Rain Man, I think one of the things that you were bringing up earlier was that Rain Man, despite its character flaws, is a visually very nice film to look at.
It is. They have a lot more locations that they use because like they were in Cincinnati, Ohio, they were in Las Vegas, they were in Los Angeles, and every place in between there. That's where they travel because they took the car and drove it all the way down there. And I had also talked about the poster too because I really did like the poster for Rain Man, which is Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman's characters walking down the road for the institution,
which is the cover on the DVD.
Right. But from an artistic standpoint, it's great because everything in that picture leads you to their characters, which is the focus of the story. Yeah. With What's Eating Gilbert Grape, it's visually it's still good. I'm not knocking that movie in any way. But 50% of it, like you said, takes place at the house
or the food It's like half the movie was 25% here, 25% here, and then 50% in scattered individual locations.
Yeah. So
one thing is like, did you find that scene where the mom has to go get Arnie from the police station when she's coming out and everyone's just staring? Do you think that might have been a little bit over the top? Like, I mean, there were some people who would stop and stare, but like for the entire town to just like drop everything.
First of all, the entire town was like 10 people.
That's true.
That was the point. Is that like in a small town, everybody, and they hadn't seen her probably in like 15 years, maybe longer. So I don't think it was overkill for that scene. I think it was actually really great because it drove home like how much she would go through for her.
One guy's got the camera, the big old-fashioned camera. Like nowadays, people pull out their cell phones to take pictures, but he actually had to have a big old-fashioned camera to take picture. Yeah. And that scene is sort of like a subtle little character arc for Gilbert because before, when the neighborhood kids would try to see her, he would like actually lift them up into the window.
Yeah.
But when he had to walk her back to the car, you could see the pain that she was feeling, and you could see that affected and bothered Gilbert. And so he sort of like after that. Wasn't there that little bit where he chased those guys away from the window? After that, they came back. Wasn't there a little bit where they?
I think you're right. Like, because he became at first it was kind of like he accepted it because he realized that he wasn't going to go anywhere in life. But then when the Airstreamers came in or the campers came in and he met the girl, that the girl disrupted his normal life, and he eventually wanted to get out of the small town and started resenting everybody in it because they were holding him back. And I mean, like, his story arc is just really great. Compare it to Tom Cruise's story arc, which is just kind of like, and then just plateaus at a certain point.
No.
Because I mean, like, he's kind of a single. And that's nothing against Tom Cruise. Like, both Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman did a great job acting in it. But like, he really is just a jerk, and like you said, he doesn't learn anything by the end.
Not a single thing is learned or empathy built, and Rain Man ended sort of like just got on the train and just left, and that was the last shot. And I felt like, shouldn't there be a little bit more? Like, shouldn't there be like, I feel like this is missing a scene or two, like at the end. I'm not sure what, but it just felt like it was missing.
I'll be honest, I was just thankful it was over at that point.
It's one of those things where it's like, I'm kind of glad that it's done, but at the same time, it's like, it just feels incomplete at this point. It's sort of like, I've heard the analogy for someone describing Peter Jackson's version of King Kong, which is over 3 hours, where someone has said, at 2 hours, it feels too long, but at 3 hours, it doesn't feel long enough. Like, there's this, like, it could have actually gone to like 3.5 hours to flesh out some more of the stuff. And I kind of feel that way a little bit with Rain Man. There were some certain things that, like the girlfriend who just ups and leaves and then comes back and then is gone again, and the whole thing with the selling of the cars and stuff like that. Just so many dropped plot threads and dropped moments and stuff like that. But yeah, Mark, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation? I really like these movies. I think they were cool.
I worry about you.
No, I worry about Mark here. He is. So, final thoughts. Okay. I would say that What's Eating Gilbert Grape is the better of the two movies. If you're only going to watch one, watch What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Rain Man, I wouldn't say is terrible. It's certainly not on the level of things that we've watched before, like Romeo and Juliet.
That was like a clear winner.
And Zathura and things like that. But it's a slog. It's like a slow burn, but the burn never really gets hot. Like, it never really burns fully up. Kennon, you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. What you say. Of the two, I would recommend watching What's Eating Gilbert Grape. The story is just really fantastic. It really makes you feel for the characters, and I mean all of them. You know, versus Rain Man. While it is good, it's it's kind of one of those situations where you had to choose between one of the two. You know, like you couldn't watch one of them. Because I do recommend watching Rain Man. I still think it's a good movie. But of the two, What's Eating Gilbert Grape is the one I would choose. So yeah, those are my final thoughts on it.
All right, well, we have a clear consensus winner, which doesn't happen very often, but who knows what the next adventure will bring. I'm Zach.
And I'm Kennon.
This has been I've Seen That Movie Too, and we will see you next time.
Have a good one.